Hello, and welcome back to Movie Husbands. Today we are reviewing Shiva Baby. Shiva Baby is directed by Emma Seligman in her directorial debut. The film stars Rachel Sennott as Danielle, who attends a funeral with her parents while juggling awkward interactions with her ex-girlfriend and current sugar daddy. Polly Draper, Fred Melamed, and Molly Gordon also star. So Jeffrey, what did you think about Shiva Baby?
So this got a little praise and buzz, I think, coming out of the film festival circuit. And it had kind of been on my mind, and I had heard a little bit about it, but I didn't know that much about it, except that people were talking about how it's uncomfortable, and it is. But I'm glad that it finally came out and we got to see it. I think that this is just such a great debut. It's a great comedy. It's a great kind of thriller film, horror-ish kind of thing. It's not actually a horror film, but you feel so uncomfortable sometimes that it almost is like cringy, the way that a horror film can make you that uncomfortable.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into the horror aspects of this movie, and in that sense that as you were describing, but I kind of want to backtrack a little bit to Emma Seligman, because this is her directorial debut. This is actually a film based on her thesis in film school, and she ended up making it into a feature full-length film, which debuted at the Toronto Film Festival last year. And yeah, I thought this film was fantastic. I was so excited by this movie. I thought the writing in particular is written with such, I don't know, there's this kind of like manic feeling to it, and then there's these times, and the music kind of plays a part in that manicness. It's like as the dialogue is getting more and more kind of intense and the anxiety is piling on, the music, there's these strings that are kind of being plucked, like on a violin or some kind of...
Yeah, it's very dissonant.
Yeah.
Like, and very screeching and...
And that music is what gave me the horror kind of aspect and feeling. It's like kind of like those dings of a chord being pulled, and you think something's going to happen in a horror aspect, but it's really just, it's your anxiety. Yeah. And I think that was such a great representation, like the connection between the music in this film and the actual feeling of the main character.
Yeah, and this is a particularly, I think, uncomfortable movie. I have a pretty high tolerance level for discomfort in movies, and even I felt kind of pretty uncomfortable during this movie. But I think that if you can free yourself from feeling uncomfortable, this movie is actually quite funny. It's very funny, and it's very observed. I think that it's so richly observant of the way that people act. I felt like I was in the room when you're younger and you're with your parents, and they have these vague platitudes that they say whenever you say something kind of awkward, where you're just like, oh, she's a little tired. Oh, she's sad. Don't listen to her. You know, this movie, like, I think picks apart people so well. I think it has kind of a cynical view of people in many respects, but it plays it for such comedy, almost like Seinfeld type of comedy, but to an umpteenth degree with the discomfort.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me, I don't know if it's necessarily the extremes of what family being together could be like, but it's kind of that assumption where everybody's talking about you while you're right there in the room. Yeah. And I totally remember that from like holidays and an entire family being there, and there would be these moments where you would do something or say something, and then somebody would jump in and just talk for you and just be like, oh yeah, he's just doing his thing, you know, he's looking for that job, or, you know, all this. It's like trying to like make you look better because they're like around other people and they want to look good.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, but I definitely found a little bit of relation to that.
This film is shot in this it's very tight on all of the characters, and there's not a lot of space in the frame, so it just gives you this feeling of claustrophobia, almost like you're stuck at a party that you don't want to be at, and you don't want to talk to anybody because all of the conversations are just so like difficult to deal with. It gives you that feeling of like the horror of human interaction, which is kind of funny that this movie's coming out at a time that we're having so little human interaction that we're actually craving it. This movie made me remember what it's like to be at a really bad party.
You're like, I just don't want to go back there. I'm not sure if I want to go back there now.
Yeah, but the talent with the direction is just, she is wise beyond her years with how well she directs this film.
This is an amazing directorial debut. I mean, everything was so particularly done in this film, and that's one of the reasons I loved it so much. And you're touching on the cinematography a little bit, how tight these shots were getting, and it's the way in which the tightness of those shots happened. So the shots would get tighter as the anxiety was piling on, as the dialogue was getting more anxious and manic. Everything in this film had so much purpose built into it, and everything was thought out very carefully. And oh my God, I love when that happens. I love when all these little pieces are done perfectly, and they all are meant to influence each other, and they all have a part on playing what the character themselves are going through. Oh,
yeah, it's almost to a degree that you don't know where the idea started because everything feels so harmonious with one another. The editing, the cinematography, the writing, they all feel like they were created at the same time. Also, this film is just a scant 75 minutes long. And I think because you can only do this shtick for so long, you may not want this movie to be more than 75 minutes long, depending on your comfort level with this kind of humor.
Yeah, for the most part, this entire film takes place at the Shiva. And you kind of realize that like halfway through, you're like, I'm pretty sure the movie's gonna be here this entire time. And I was completely cool with that. I think that was fantastic.
Yeah, and there's just all these little details of the way people are speaking to each other. There's a baby that's constantly crying just to ratchet up this tension more and more as the film goes forward. But it's always funny. At least if you have a tolerance for that kind of thing, it is very funny.
Yeah, it's very funny, but it's also kind of like, I think, a way to branch off anxiety. I know it's interesting because like when you have anxiety, it does not feel funny. And in some ways, the way people cope with that is by making fun of it, making a joke out of your anxiety or your struggle. And
yeah, this was clearly made by somebody that has anxiety.
I totally related to that aspect too. It's just like you feeling everything closing in. You feel like everybody it was so interesting, like the sound design in this film wasn't just with like the music itself, but with the audio and what people were saying, the conversations that were happening.
Yeah.
And you would hear the conversations of other people as the anxiety was piling on. It seemed like there was more of them and they were overlaying with each other. Like there was more conversations happening on top of each other.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there's this great shot where I think she's coming out of the bathroom and people, all of the old people are eating and they're staring at her in slow motion and they're just kind of like grossly eating their food. And I don't know, it's just great. It's so funny. There's a lot of great little details about just the way people interact with each other in this movie that I love. Like she's kind of planning what she's going to talk about with people when she gets in. She's like, okay, I have some interviews lined up and I'm about to graduate with my degree in this. And you kind of feel that way when you enter a party. You're like, oh, what's the new thing going on with me that I can talk to people about?
What's so interesting is I'm not sure her character really cares about those things.
No, I don't think she does. I think it's really just like the social function of being trapped in those conversations.
And I think a lot of that was due to her parents in a way. It seems that they were kind of pushing like, we have to make her look good. We have to make her look like she's got her shit together, even though she don't got her shit together.
Yeah, like, oh, she might go to law school. She might go to grad school. We don't know yet.
But all these expectations piling on, and I think this is one of the great undertones of the film, that you have this expectation of you have to be something, and everybody's expecting you to do something. And I think all that expectation builds all this anxiety, and it's no wonder what progresses during her story in the film.
Yeah, and there's jokes that I guess she used to be like a little bit chubbier, and that it seemed like these people were making fun of her when she was chubby, and now they seem to be making fun of her because she's too skinny.
Yeah.
So like these people are just hypercritical about anything that she's gonna do. Yeah, I know that I don't. I'm not like everybody, but I really found this movie to be a blast. I thought it was a lot of fun.
This was such a blast of a movie. If you have not seen it, I recommend it highly. We're not even to grades yet, and I'm like...
One of the things, and I know that we're not like, the most watched show on YouTube or anything, but one of the things about, I think, having a YouTube review show is you want to highlight some things that maybe people don't know about, even if it's only our friends and family that end up watching this movie. I think just to talk about how good this is so it doesn't fly under the radar is something that I really enjoy doing on our channel.
No, I totally agree. I think what you get, right, I mean, I look through the search results on YouTube and not many people are reviewing this movie. It's just so great to kind of talk about a movie that maybe not everybody has seen, and I think it's a great recommendation.
So are you ready to go to grades?
Yeah, I'm ready to go to grades. I give this movie an A. I really enjoyed this movie. I had such a great time. I recommend it highly. I want everybody to see it. If you haven't seen it already, if you have, let us know in the comments what you thought about it, because it was just so good. And I'd love to talk with somebody all about it. But yeah, I think great directorial debut, amazing writing. It was so harmonious the way all these pieces came together. The acting, the writing, and the music for sure. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I give it an A-. I think it's great. I could almost see this being like a comfort movie for me in some ways, because my comfort movies tend to be like a little more darker and uncomfortable and a little misanthropic, and I could totally see myself watching this to cheer myself up just because it's so funny, and it seems to understand all of those things about life that just make you feel a little off. I don't know, it's great.
No, I completely agree, and I think one thing we didn't really discuss in too much detail, but this movie is very authentic. I think the conversations are so authentic. You could relate to things that you've heard or you see in your own lives, and I think that's just what made it so good, is that you felt a genuine connection, a genuine heart within it.
Yeah, and you can kind of say, I've been at this party before.
All right, and that's it for our review of Shiva Baby. We hope you enjoyed this video. Let us know in the comments if you've seen the movie and what you thought about it, and we'll see you next time.